Race fam, Brian Davis Races. It is like Groundhog Day. We are back going racing the next weekend. The exact same route to get there, almost. So I'm taking the same gorgeous roads to get to this race. Plan for today. I'm going to go back to my roots. I'm going to hang out until the last couple hundred meters and then sprint. Yeah. So we're going to keep today really simple. Really simple. Other than that, it was a pretty quiet week. Had a decent week of training. Not great, not bad. A couple early mornings. A couple two-a-days. I think I had two two-a-days in there. So that's pretty solid. That might have been about it. So this week I did not ride Thursday. And then yesterday I rode a really easy hour and a half. So I've geared up my week for this race. So I'm really hoping that pays off. Be 2 more bottles of sugar water to go. And then I should be able to race. I'm going to try to do the pro race after my race. So we'll see how that goes. If you've been watching the channel, you know that I've not been able to complete my Masters 2-3 race and then turn around and do the pro race. Sadly, last weekend was really tough. Got a bunch of sick kids, so that sucks. And then our cat had to be put down. She had kidney failure. We think maybe she ate a grape. Just a quick public service announcement. Google cats and grapes. Apparently it is a very bad thing. Alright friends, let's go racing bicycles. Alright, this was an awesome course. 6-turn course, pancake flat, which is something that I absolutely adore. And the weather was pretty nice. No significant wind to speak of. And they had just redone most of the pavement on the course, which was fantastic. Oh, that was nice. There's one downside to the new pavement, but overall it was absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to just run through the first lap of the course so you can get a feel for the course itself. So like I said, pancake flat. There's a couple manhole covers at the apex of some of these turns that will be a bit of a factor for me, at least later, unfortunately. So I know I struggled in the first lap or two just trying to figure out where they were, what the line was going through these turns, where everybody else wanted to be, where I wanted to be, what the gutters were like, and any other road obstructions. So I only got one trip, I think maybe 2 trips around the course before we started, and I also thought the race started at 3:30. It actually started at 3:20. Not a huge deal, but it did reduce my warm-up time a touch, but not at all a factor in my performance. I got a decent warm-up, felt really good. Building up to the week, like I said in the intro, I had I think a really well-timed week. So Thursday I didn't try to kill it, but anyway, that's the first lap. Alright, so this is kind of how the race went. So we get an attack, and then we get Robert on the front to just sort of slowly pull it back in. And that'll happen a couple of times. I shouldn't say slowly, but he methodically pulls it back in each time that he is called upon to perform his duties, which he volunteers for readily, I guess. So in any event, that's my plan, is to just kind of stay toward the front where I'm the most comfortable and just hang out. So this gentleman here to the right that attacks here, here's a little lesson. I should have paid some amount of attention to who raced before our race, because I think his name escapes me right now, but I'm pretty fairly positive that he had raced prior to this race. I think he told me that even in the race, but I couldn't really process what he meant by that. I thought he said, I have one race in me, and what I thought that meant was he's only good for one race today. I'm like, okay, good story. But what he was really trying to tell me was he's already raced today, so he's got not fresh legs. I didn't figure that out till 2 days later. In any event, I went up the road with him here. I don't know if we have a gap at all, but you know, I'm happy to play along as long as I'm getting a draft. It doesn't matter a ton to me what happens. But again, had I known or contemplated that he had already raced, I certainly wouldn't have gone up here at 370 watts to do any amount of work. But I did, so that's okay, not the end of the world, but again, wish I hadn't. Alright, so I of course pull off. So at another point in the race, there's a two-man little move up here. Robert again moves up to the front. He's just going to do his bid to frustrate these guys just enough that he's going to pull them back. And then I think, if I remember how I cut this footage, there's going to be a pretty good counter-attack that comes as a result of this, if I remember correctly, but I might not be remembering. Maybe not. So anyway, another strong rider of the day, Brian, in the orange kit up the road. He is going to move up to whatever move that is, and then I tuck in behind Mike. So the interesting thing about this day's racing is there's three really strong solo riders. There's Mike ahead of me there, Brian in the orange, and then Robert Barry, who brought back that other two-man group prior. So those are the three, I guess I have to say, the strongest independent guys. And then there's two pretty well represented teams, which would be LAPT in the predominantly blue with bright green highlights, and then the Velocause guys, which are black with the bright yellow highlights. And then there are a couple guys from CZ Velo, which is blue and yellow as well. In any event, those are the teams that kind of mattered. Yeah, so the mix of guys that had to be in a break for it to stick would have been tough to pull off, really, because the solo riders, they are always happy to pull people back, those particular solo riders. And then the team guys, you know, they do their team thing. Frankly, I think the team guys could have punched us a few more times. One, you know, send a guy, pull him back, send a guy, pull him back, send a guy, pull him back. I think they could have done that a few more times and put some difficulty on the three solo riders that mattered, but and maybe they did, and I just didn't pay enough attention to what that tactic really looked like. So in any event, that was the race. It would have been tough to get away. I wish I would have really given that some more thought, because had I really given that some thought, it would have occurred to me that it'd be very hard for a breakaway to get away on this course. Now, there's turns, and there can be some high-speed, tricky turns, so there's potential for a breakaway to get away, but it's probably not going to happen. Now, that move up there, those three guys, I was with them. We had four. We had a pretty good group, but then, yep, Brian in the orange is not in that group, so he's going to pull us back, and then he would have been followed by Mike. So as soon as I saw those two guys leading the chase, I'm like, nah, that's enough of that. So I pull off, everybody's come back together, and then there's just a whole long shot of this type of racing. We're all kind of lined up. We're going 20 miles an hour, not too hard, not too easy, just kind of doing our thing. So that was a huge chunk of the race that I fast-forwarded there, by the way. So a couple more of these moves, and then, you know, I thought, oh, this is going to be good. We got Brian, we got Robert Barry right ahead of me, we got a Velocause guy, Brian Leatherman up there. And myself, I thought, okay, this is good. The only guy we're missing is Mike and maybe an LAPT rider, but no luck. So Brian kind of does a fake attack there, and to his credit, it worked really well, because it kind of got me thinking, maybe there's something I could do or should do in this group to spur on this break. So then Brian puts in a real honest attack from the back, and then pulls up short again. I guess I take that back, pulls up short again. And Anderson here, who took those photos in the beginning of the race, or the beginning of this video, doesn't always race with us, so it's fun to have him out. He usually does the Pro 1-2 group, so it's nice to have him racing with us again. And he was very animated in this race, which was fun to be a part of too. He led that first lap, and so anyway, this fake move by Brian, or two fake moves kind of back to back, got me thinking, you know, maybe I'm the one that should stir the pot and see what happens and let these guys come up to me. So against what I thought I was going to do today, I put in a blistering attack right here. Boom. 1300, maybe, I think 1380. I think that was my max wattage for the day, was to get away from this break. And then I scorch this turn. And I'm kind of committed at this point, so I'm hoping that other folks are going to come up and join me. I'm actually praying that that'll happen, because there's very little chance that I can stick a move like this against those riders that were here solo. Again, if I would have really thought about this, I probably should not have done this move, but I felt good, and putting in the attack, I don't know, I just had a good shot at it, and I kind of wanted to do it, so I did it. And it's fun. It's bike racing. It's supposed to be fun. So anyway, that's what I did. So I try to scorch those turns. I try to go curb to curb on those turns, because I know I'm all by myself. So that's the advantage of being off on your own or in a small group, is you can really rail the turns much better. And then I get over to the right hand side, because I want to try to disappear or look like a stranded rider, or just get out of the eyesight of the normal racing line. So that was my rationale for moving over. So speed things up, and then ding ding ding, oh, they call a preem lap. And by the way, I'm looking back at the field, and Brian is on the front of the field, and he's giving me the wave saying, you know, go ahead, put your move in. So he's kind of giving me a license to go, and you know, in reality, I think that was really smart, because he's strong enough to bridge. There's a couple other guys that are strong enough to bridge, so yeah, let me go up there and form something, and then they can come up to me and put the other people in difficulty. But it didn't quite happen. I think that preem really messed stuff up. At least for me, I certainly took a lot of wind out of my sails, and I didn't even hear what the preem was for. I don't know if it was $30 or whatever it was, but it wasn't enough to make me, or I didn't hear it what it was to get me motivated. So, I mean, if the opportunity was there and I could win it, sure, I'll do it. So I'm still putting 400 watts down to try to get to this finish line, but I realize right here, that's not going to happen. I'm going to pull over. I'm going to save every ounce of energy I have, because I am gassed at this point. If there would have been a counter move right then, after this preem, which strategically is a great time to do it, by the way, right after a preem, so everybody runs through. I think Andy won the preem. This moment would have been perfect to put in an attack had someone had their wits about them, but that didn't happen. All right, so now let's get into the last lap. Or last lap or two. So I think this is the last 2 laps or lap and a half. We just passed through the start finish line. We're on that front straight. We're getting into the twisties. I am way too far back for my comfort. Look at all these riders. If we had been gunning, there's 0 chance I would have been able to make it up. But this could not happen at Tour of America's Dairyland. There is no way to go from 15 or 20 back up to a decent finish. But in WCA racing, before Tour of America's Dairyland, I guess you can kind of pull this move off. So I'm tail gunning this crit. I have no idea how many people are behind me. I'm feeling way too far back, but you'll see I'm not doing much about it, which is good, because I got really lucky. All right. Let's okay, so I thought the CZ Velo guys were actually going to do a pretty good lead out here, which didn't turn out to be the case. I thought that those predominantly green with a little bit of blue kits were going to line up and get to work. That didn't really happen, so that's kind of what I was gearing up for. I thought those two were really going to hit it, but now we get a lull here, which was really lucky. So this is kind of after the guys that can burn it for 2 laps. They sort of quit. They're not necessarily sprinters. And then you get this lull, which is great. Then I move up, and this is perfect. Now I'm willing to take a little bit of wind here, because I want to maintain my position up toward the front in the top 5 riders. We're in the last lap. This is go time, you know. So I get pushed out on this turn a little bit. No big deal. I'm in the gutter. I got a little nervous, I have to say, but so be it. Now we're going a little bit too slow for the last lap. There should have really been a lead out here from one of the bigger teams to scorch this last lap, but they burned up their guys a little bit too early, in my opinion. Not a good turn there by me, and I'm going to screw up another turn here. Now, I should have gone a little bit wider and tried to close the door so we line up on that turn, but I kicked out really wide on this one to avoid that manhole cover, and that cost me. All right, so now I lost 3 spots in that stupid turn. No big deal. I'm behind Mike. Mike's pretty fast finisher, so I'm okay. Now, here's what I should have pinched this turn a little bit more inside, but I didn't, and I opened the door for this gentleman in Velocause to, oh, he comes right into me, and I got nowhere to go, and that really screwed up my sprint. So no fault of his, he was just trying to grab Mike's wheel. I should have protected Mike's wheel much better, and I am super upset about that right now. So I have tons of adrenaline coursing through, and I'm going to hit this final sprint with everything I got. And somehow, some way, I pulled off 4th. So I can dance around a couple people here, but in reality, all those folks started their sprint way too late. It should have been the turn before, which is really where I wanted to sprint, but I timed it all wrong. Oh well, that's racing. All right, thanks for checking it out, and that's the end of the race. I'll say goodbye.